including my book is stuff you're not supposed to know. It's stuff that's been suppressed, but it's all true to the best of my research ability. And I spent 7 years and about 6,000 to 7,000 hours of my time book researching and putting this guy together, man. And it's free.
Yeah, well, you certainly can't argue with the price, but
I am selling it also for sure to try to. I own a handyman business right now, so I'm still working full time doing that, support my family and stuff. So I'm kind of doing this on the side, but for sure, if I can get this book rolling, if I can get enough traffic through my website, enough people reading the book and spreading it, or if I can sell enough books to get to write the second book, which I've already got sitting on my desk, all the notes for it. That's my goal for sure. Hopefully, if I can just get the one right guy who's got money to spare to donate for my cause or whatever, and I'm gonna get cracking on the second book, which is gonna be another mind blower for sure. And I've got all the info on it. I just gotta get the time to do it. But I gotta get this first book off the ground for sure, because that's gonna the spark of what this information awakening is gonna be about, I think.
Now, if you go to my site, folks, you can make a donation. I've got links for PayPal there to make a donation. And if you make a donation and you tell me that is for the culling of America, I'll forward the book to you, and I'll split your donation with Jeff here. I mean,
you don't need to. No, you don't need to do that, Clayton.
Well, I look. If we don't work together, we can all hang alone. And I want to promote the link to your book, the link to this show will be up on my website, and you certainly can download it to your website for this show. I want to have you back because, and even if you don't have time, I'll simply take a chapter out of your book and make a show out of it, because you have done you have done the research, and oh man, again the quotes in here are just worth it. We're grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the bright lights of publicity during these years. But the world is now much more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supranational sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to national auto-determination practiced in past centuries. That comes from David Rockefeller, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, co-founder of the Bilderberg Group, the Club of Rome, and the Trilateral Commission. Current head of Rockefeller Oil and the banking dynasty, and a master of the great plan to the extreme. I mean, they're so arrogant that they just come right out and
they didn't try to hide it anymore.
They're not trying to hide it at all. And
no, they know the people are so dumbed down. They've got the people so stupefied with all this mass media BS that their plans are out in the open. But most of what's in my book, they don't have any problem fully admitting to, because they know it's not, at this point, it's not going to matter, because a handful of people that are awake aren't going to do much unless they get the rest of humanity woken up to what's going on. So they're just throwing it right in our face. That's why they put all their Masonic symbolism on the back of the $1 bill. It's just throw it right in your face, and they know it's unless something like my book can take off and wake people up, they know it's not going to. They're very arrogant for sure, and they almost make a game out of it. Just how much they can shove in our face and how blind everybody really is, Clayton.
Yeah, and folks, again, for all of you jerks out there that are putting down David Koss because he wants to run for president, and by the way, he said that he would appoint me as head of the FBI if he got to be president. And people are putting him down. You know, the worst thing that a banker could do is see me running the FBI, because I would round these bastards up. Wouldn't kill them, you know. I'd just hang them after they all had a fair trial. And for you people that are putting David down because he wants to run, what are your qualifications? What are your qualifications? What are you what? Well, do you think, as Jeff tells us right after David Rockefeller's quote, do you think our presidents are self-made men who started with nothing and miraculously became president? Our presidents are selected and groomed years in advance by the diabolical proponents of the great plan. Once you start cross-referencing family bloodlines, name, business relationships, and bloodlines, names, and business relationships, the name Bush pops to mind. You know, from Prescott Bush to George W. Bush to Bush Jr. to Jeb Bush, who they got selected to be next in the dynasty. You'll find this is all the usual suspects time and time again calling the shots. The same secret societies and the same politicians that populate them. The same families, the same bankers, the same politicians, the same CEOs, right on down the globalist line. It is the equivalent of a global organized crime syndicate, and since they make the rules, they're literally getting away with murder. It's like, and I've said Israel, it's a safe country created by the same syndicates, and you'll hear them talk about the Russian mafia. It's a Jewish mafia. You'll hear them talk about the mafia here. You know, the name Al Capone may pop up to your mind, but Al Capone died of syphilis. Meyer Lansky never went to jail. And even Woodrow Wilson said, since I entered politics, I chiefly had men's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something. They know there's a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. Now, folks, take 30 seconds here and really think about your family, how much you really love them, and what kind of future you want for them. Think about your kids, grandkids, right on down the line. Your wife, your husband, your parents, your family, your friends, everybody you care about and love. They are all in harm's way because of this great plan to enslave the world at any cost. As you digest the information in this book, remember that your actions henceforth will either contribute to the solution and a bright, hopeful future for the generation, or you will contribute to the problem and help expedite the great plan along to completion. The end result of this path is a dark, destitute, and meager existence for your loved ones that'll curse you forever for not standing up to the tyranny that is the New World Order. Jeff, when I was in Miami on my 28-foot Hatteras, sitting up on my flyer bridge and watching what happened at Waco. I had plenty of money. I could go anywhere. I had a lot of cars, a lot of boats, motorcycles, a lot of companies. And I watched what happened at Waco, and I told my wife that I could not sit back and watch something like Waco happen again without trying to do something.
Yep.
And that's why I started the Free American. That's why I started the militias. That's why I do this radio show. That's why I promote people like you and look for people like you to tell people about, to give some guidance here. Now it turns back up to you. Anybody that's putting me down, putting David down, that doesn't want to support us, that wants to donate so drug dealers like Mitt Romney could get into office. I mean, you gave him $700 million, and he probably laundered 2 or 3 times that for the drug dealers. My book, Mystery Babylon, talks about Operation Watchtower, which was ordered by George Bush as CIA director and brought in over 100 plane loads of cocaine into Albrook Air Force Base, and from there went up to a little protected airport protected by Bill Clinton. It's here in my book. You know, the information about this overall plan is in your book, and you can read both of those today, folks. I'd like it if you'd make a donation. We'd like it if we were able to take this, but you're not going to hear this show. You're not going to read about these books in the mainstream media. They ain't going to have me on the Today Show. When I started the militia, they brought a few people on in the militia. They were the ones that were screaming, you're going to have my gun when you take it from my cold, dead fingers. They're not giving you the facts like this book does, like Jeff Hayes is giving you, like Clay Douglas is giving you. And what we're up against is a monster. It's as Mayor John F. Hyland, again, a quote from the Culling of Man, 1922. Right after the Federal Reserve took over, he said the real menace of our republic is this invisible government which, like a giant octopus, sprawls its slimy length over city-state nation. Like the octopus of real life, it operates under the cover of self-created screen. At the head of this octopus are the Rockefeller Standard Oil Interest and a small group of powerful banking houses generally referred to as international bankers. This coalition of powerful international bankers virtually run the United States government for their own selfish purposes. They practically control both political parties. So, folks, that was a New York mayor way before Giuliani, who sold you out, was part of the whole 9/11 conspiracy. You need to forget everything you've learned or been told by the mainstream media about our reality, because it's for the most part a pack of lies, distractions, and deceptions. Even Albert Einstein told you that the ruling class has the schools and press under its thumb. This enables it to sway the emotions of the masses. Jeff, you've just done a masterful piece of work here.
I appreciate that, Clayton.
What brought you to do this? I mean, you said you were practically an atheist in the beginning, and I have said you're offering this book on the internet. Well, that backs up one of my other controversial theories. I said I don't believe God stopped talking to us 2,000 years ago, and this is the 21st century. So I think burning bushes are passe. I think God uses the internet. I think God sent you to me on the internet, and we are offering this book to everybody on the internet. And you can even read the book first, then send a donation. When you realize that what I've been doing for the last 20 years is telling you everything, just about everything, that Jeff has told you in this book, and he's offering this to you free. I've always tried to sell my books to make a living, but been real hard because they control the publishing, they control the press. We can't handle your book. You got to have an agent. Okay. You call up an agent and they say, I'm sorry, you have to be referred to us before we can take you on. Well, how about if, how am I going to get anybody to refer me when I've been working for myself and publishing my own magazine for the last 40 years?
Exactly. That's why it's going to be a grassroots thing for sure. Clayton. I'll tell you just something for you and your listeners. I'm going to be changing the title of this book. I'm going to be switching the subtitle with the title. So instead of this book is just getting started. I just released it at the end of January, about three or 4 months ago, so it's just getting started. So I'm still working some details out. But I don't know if you know who David Dees is or not, but he's definitely he's probably the #1 New World Order political artist. I would say he is the #1 new political artist for New World Order stuff, and he suggested, I was able to get in contact with him, thank God, by the grace of God, and he suggested I switch the title with the subtitle, so, and he's working on a new cover for my book right now, which is going to be phenomenal. I should have it in the next few days here, but so this book from pretty soon is going to be called Rise of the New World Order, and then the subtitle is going to be Culling of Man, so just going to give you and your readers a heads up that change is coming here pretty quick. So
great. All you got to do is get it to me right away, and I'll do that.
Right on.
Share some more of the book with me here for just a second.
Okay.
You got him?
Yeah.
Yes, you got him. Okay, call me back in an hour. I'm doing a radio show right now. Somebody trying to sell me something on my cell phone. Sorry about that. You know, folks, again, let me share some more of Jeff's book. I'm looking forward to seeing the new cover, but in the meantime, I'll use the old one. I'm going to keep this up on my website here, and it's been said that truth passes through 3 stages. The first being denial, the second being violent opposition, the third being widespread acceptance of the proclaimed truth as common knowledge. So, as you read this book, folks, keep in mind that you will probably fall into one of these 3 categories. One group of people will vehemently deny what we're saying is true, pass it off as lunacy without checking the facts for themselves. Another group will be greatly distressed to this kind of information being released, threatening their fake reality bubble, rather than pay attention to the facts that will take great pains to discredit me and my message. That is, they will attack the messenger instead of addressing the facts of the message. The last group, respectively, will sit back and say to themselves, I knew it all along. I knew there was something just not right in the world, and this is it. With the advent of the internet over the last few years, folks, all matters of suppressed information suddenly have a direct outlet to the public. Quite literally, information that has been kept secret for thousands of years is suddenly spilling out with only a few years' time, and they aim to stop it. Members of Congress have openly discussed an internet switch they could turn off if they need it in the name of Homeland Security. That is, if enough people begin to find out about this stuff, they could potentially foment a revolution against the great plan, and the proponents will do everything in their power to squash this. That is exactly what's happened.
Yep.
And that's what their plan is. You know, there's just some of them that just won't follow orders. Now, the militias that I helped start 20 years ago, back in 1994, it was a good idea then, it's a good idea now. Today, they're being organized here in Texas with the sheriffs, the elected law enforcement. This ain't fusion centers, and of course the sheriffs are being threatened by the president himself. They are scared to death that we're going to resist, and this time, if we resist, it's going to be by force of arm, and with the sheriff backing us, his deputies backing us. You know, a few years back, I was in New Mexico, and the FBI put out a document they called Guide to Right-Wing Extremists. And they listed me and the Free American magazine in there and I made 2 phone calls. The first was to Governor Gary Johnson. He said, "Don't worry about it." I told him, "Well, Gary, that may be easy for you to say, but frankly, I'm worried about it." The second, the next day, I called the chief of the state police. He said, "Don't worry about it." And I said, "Guys, you keep telling me this. I think they're trying to get me killed here. I think they're trying to get me set up." And the chief of the state police said, "Clay, I've been reading your magazine for 10 years. You don't have a thing to worry about for me or any of my men." I said, "Well, what about the sheriff? What about the police in some podunk little town like Socorro, New Mexico?" He said the governor issued a recalled all of those booklets put out by the FBI. He recalled them from every police department in New Mexico. So I didn't worry about it anymore. But that the militia working for the sheriffs standing up and becoming a part of. There's over 300 sheriffs now that are part of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association, started by Sheriff Richard Mack. Those people are they're on our side. The people that are on our side here, and we're talking about law enforcement. And we've probably got a few congressmen, not a lot of them, 2 or 3 maybe, but they can be recalled, and I've got that up on my site too, folks. There's another link there from people that are trying to do something. That is the what is it? They're actually trying to recall some of these congressmen that have been recallpetitions.com. We the people voting out all who break their oath to the Constitution. We are having an effect. It may not seem like that, and a lot of you out there have the idea, I'm just one person, what can I do? You can talk to your friends, you can talk to your neighbors, you can support people like Jeff, like me, that are trying to bring this information to you. Now, with just today, just to show you the kind of opposition, I've had this information and the link to your book up for at least a week, Jeff.
Yep.
And today, up on the Revolution Radio, suddenly there was a storm and knocked out all of the power to the radio stations. So we don't have 15,000 people listening to the show today. We've got, we still are doing the show on Blog Talk, and that show, we've got probably the largest audience I've ever had in the, whoa! Yeah, I've got the largest live audience ever had on Blog Talk, and that will be a download. You'll be able to download that show. Click on your name, and you'll be able to download the show. When you put it up on your website, we'll have probably. I'm going to guess that we're going to have several thousand people listen to this show.
Right.
And it will be rebroadcast and rerun on Revolution Radio whenever they get power up. Now, the power was knocked out of 6 residents, including the one where this show is normally broadcast out of. I think that's just a coincidence. Could that just be a coincidence?
That might not be a coincidence, brother. For sure, because this isn't the book. It's easily launched. Awakening we need to take the country back. And that's why I gave away for free. People can download it and take the file in the email, and they can email to everybody on the other. Take the email to 5 buddies, or 5 buddies can get email to 5 of their buddies, and if we can get this thing for a chain reaction, I guarantee you we'll take the country back.
Well, we're certainly going to try to do that. And that
we certainly are.
And folks, we can't do it. We can't do it all alone. Again, you know, I've been running my own businesses for 30 years or more, and they've tried to kill me. They've tried to silence me. They've tried to intimidate me. You know, they showed up in the hospital after I'd been drugged for 3 months. You've been hallucinating, Clay? You can thank us for that. Yeah, who are you? CIA. Yeah, what are you doing in this country? What are you doing messing with me? You know, that's what they try to do, folks. That's how they work. That's how they killed Kennedy. They killed Larry McDonald. They've killed other senators and other presidents. They tried to assassinate Andrew Jackson, who basically killed me, bought us a little bit more freedom for a short time.
Yeah.
And we're not advocating going out and killing all the Jews. Certainly not advocating killing all the Muslims. I don't want to, that's what the New World Order wants. They want us fighting with each other. Albert Pike wrote about 3 world wars. Third one being with Muslims. There weren't any Muslims in the cave in Afghanistan that made the U.S. Air Force stand down after 9/11.
No.
It's we haven't. Anybody ever get to see the body of Osama bin Laden, supposedly killed by the SEAL Team 6? Well, what happened to SEAL Team 6? Oh yeah, they got killed too.
Yeah.
Must be just coincidence. So many coincidences, huh?
Too many.
What suggestions do you have? Read the book, and then what? What do we do? What do we do? If we can get 1,000 people listening to the show, if you all chipped in $5 or $10, folks, go to the my PayPal site and do that. We got some money to operate on. We got some money to promote this book. So we got some money to print it. And I can arrange to have your book printed or make a hard copy out of it if you don't already have a printer. The Texas Independence Movement here prints my books, so I've got hard copies of all of my books available. We could do that for yours too, Jeff.
We'll talk about that. Let's work something out over email or off air for sure. We'll work it out, because I want to get this book in as many people's hands as possible. It's the only way we're going to save the country is to wake people up, and that's what I'm all about, brother.
I am sending out copies of my 3 books to Barnes & Noble today. And Revolution yesterday, maybe possibly another reason they got shut down today, I made arrangements with a streaming company to stream the whole network, 24 hours a day. And then suddenly, before they got a chance to institute that, before they got a chance to upload yesterday's show, or even hear today's show, they lost power. Now, you could blame it on HARP, you could blame it on the New World Order, you could blame it on... All they had to do is cut a switch, throw a switch at the power company, and stop all of this. pretty amazing here. Let me look. Also, we can take calls, folks. We got a few minutes left here. We can take calls at 646-915-8774. That's 646-915-8774. Haven't used this for a while. This is Blog Talk Radio's thing. And we've got people in the chat room and Blog Talk. We got people listening on that. So if you want to call in and talk with Jeff Hayes or me, 646-915-8774. We've got about 17 minutes left. Jeff, I'm not Alex Jones. I don't usually hog the conversations.
Well, I appreciate you filling in the gaps for me, because like I said, Clayton, I'm not a talker. I'm a total listener type personality, because I found you learn a lot more that way. So I think the Lord just made me naturally more of a listener than a talker, so I would just learn by listening to all the other people who did talk and broadcast stuff, and just take it all in over all my life. And it's over time as we go forward. Like I said, you're my first radio interview. As we go forward, I'll get more comfortable talking for sure. And but I appreciate you just kind of walking me through this. And I'll always remember this as my first interview for sure, brother.
Well, it won't be your last. I won't have you back. But even when you're not on, if I have a guest that doesn't show up, if I have a day open and you're not available, I am going to share page after page of this book. This is I know a lot of people that have written a lot of books. I've had them all. I've sold their books for most of them. This one really pulls it together. It's this book is and these aren't my words; these are your words. This book is a brutal, honest explanation of the New World Order, and this is the primary directive of this book, to expose their plans and let you know what's going on, so you can research it yourself and prepare for what is to come before they pull the plug on this type of information. And they will pull the plug, mark my words. Now, one more quote from David Rockefeller from his published memoirs. I mean, how long did it take you to track down all of these quotes? They're all public record. I mean, but Rockefeller said, some even believe we, the Rockefeller family, are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure, one world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. And there's a quote from you in writing in his published memoirs. And then Jeff says, on the surface, the notion of a one-world government might not be such a bad thing. That is, until you find out the truth of who is currently pushing its agenda and who intends to run it when it gets in place. If you are a caring and compassionate human being, you will want to know the truth, such that you can help your family, your neighbor, and your fellow humanity. We are all in this together. They have used the mainstream media, which they own and control, to brainwash you into thinking everything is all right. It's not. And we know that beyond a shadow of doubt that the people running the federal government of the United States are corrupt from the top to the bottom. You have no idea of just how corrupt and ill-intentioned the monstrosity really is that our public puppet politicians have built into the present-day federal government. Keep in mind that the government is not our enemy. Government is merely a tool that is malignant or benign as whoever is wielding it, just like a gun. Right now, the people who have bought and paid for our federal government are the ones wielding the gun of governmental tyranny, and they're firing on us right now. That's why Homeland Security folks bought 1 billion rounds of ammo, enough to kill every man, woman, and child in this country. You think they did that to protect you?
Hollow points, no less.
Hollow points. Banned in warfare.
There's only one, only one thing hollow points are designed to do, and that's to kill another human being. They've got enough to kill us 3 times over. So what are they doing with 1 billion hollow point rounds?
Folks, our elected United States government is a facade. Frankly, I'll tell you right up front. I went through presidential elections. I sat and talked with Pat Buchanan. I met Alan Keyes. I met Bob Dole. I met Songbird McCain. And I hadn't voted since. You can only vote for people that you know about. And with these financial banksters controlling the media, and whether it's the Jews brag about controlling it, but it was the Jewish Pharisees, the synagogue of Satan that Jesus warned you about. It's the money changers Jesus ran out of the temple are still with us, folks. They just changed the name of the temple. They call it the International Monetary Fund, the Bank of England, or the Federal Reserve. So, you say here, Jeff, that our government is a facade paid for by a financial pyramid scheme that was pushed into legalization by the Great Plan conspirators in 1913. These are none other than the ancestors of the current day owners of the privately held private reserve. That's right, private owners of the Federal Reserve. And, you know, we've had there was the Occupy in the Fed movement, but they ended up co-opting those, and basically this whole Occupy movement, the only thing I remember seeing about the Occupy movement was some hippie taking a shit on a police car.
That happened right in Seattle, where I'm from.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to demonize anybody that may stand up. They tried to paint me and forming the militia as some kind of terrorist group. They just didn't tell you that we formed in the governor's office. Didn't want you to know that. And so all of these movements, and even the Tea Party, let's talk about the Tea Party movement. Maybe you can give me some input on the Tea Party movement. I went on the Tea Party movement, and at the time Ron Paul was still running for president. And then suddenly the Tea Parties were trying to trash me and Ron Paul. Now, wait a minute, you know, there's something wrong, and Ron Paul is the one person to stand up for the Constitution. What happened to the Tea Party movement?
It got infiltrated and co-opted, just as they do with pretty much all organizations. It definitely started out as to back Ron Paul, and then you get infiltrators coming in. They kind of hijacked it, and now they've, I don't want to say turned it into a joke, but they've definitely